Well, hello everyone. No, you can't see me, and that's because even though my webcam is working perfectly according to the software that manages it and I can see everything, none of the recording software will actually record it. I have no idea what's going on with that, but we'll see if we can talk about this story, because I was always wondering, how was it that Trump thought that he could restrict birthright citizenship when it's in the Constitution? And here's a pretty good reason article from Jacob Solom that goes over it and all of the issues. So let's get into that. So his order, Trump claims, will end automatic citizenship for children of illegal aliens. But the president cannot do that on his own, and any such order is bound to provoke a constitutional argument that Trump cannot win. The 14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Well, Trump says, under the correct interpretation of the law, birthright citizenship does not apply to the children of illegal aliens because they are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And so that's his argument. Now, that didn't make much sense to me, and I was wondering if there was a case on this. And Solom found one. It is United States v. Wong Kim Ark. So Trump's interpretation of that phrase contradicts the definition that the U.S. Supreme Court embraced in 1898. That case involved a Chinese cook, Wong Kim Ark, who was born and raised in San Francisco, but was denied re-entry when he returned to the United States after visiting China on the grounds that he was not a U.S. citizen. The Supreme Court ruled in Wong's favor and held that people are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States when they are bound to obey its laws. So, who are those people? Well, based on that history, the court said, children of diplomatic representatives and children of alien enemies in hostile occupation are not U.S. citizens. It made an additional exception, which no longer applies, for children born to members of Indian tribes owing direct allegiance to their several tribes. Otherwise, the court said, people born in the United States automatically qualify as U.S. citizens. That principle, the justices emphasized, predated the 14th Amendment, which aimed to ensure that it applied to black people as well as Americans of European descent. Because if you think of it, how are any of us who aren't natives citizens? If we all come from somewhere else, and you don't get to be a citizen just by being born of an immigrant, then how are any of us citizens? Because then their children wouldn't be citizens, and their children wouldn't be citizens, and their children wouldn't be citizens, and theirs weren't, and theirs, and then on and on and on down to us. So the court said, to hold that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution excludes from citizenship the children born in the United States of citizens or subjects of other countries would be to deny citizenship to thousands of persons of English, Scotch, Irish, German, or other European parentage, who have always been considered and treated as citizens of the United States. So to avoid that implication, the German-Scottish president-elect, the descendant of immigrants, asserts a constitutional distinction between the children of legal immigrants and the children of illegal aliens. So since he's from legal aliens, he's a citizen. That distinction is ahistorical, and they mention appeals court judge, a Trump appointee, James Ho, someone he considered as a potential Supreme Court nominee. In 2006, he said, Congress did not generally restrict migration until well after the adoption of the 14th Amendment. And by the way, there is nothing in the Constitution that gives the government the power to stop immigration, to do anything with immigration. With naturalization, yes, but I keep making this distinction because people keep lumping these together and getting them confused. Immigration just means moving. Naturalization is the process of becoming a citizen and getting things like the right to vote. So those are two different things. The Constitution does not give Congress the power to regulate immigration, only naturalization. And that wasn't even contemplated until over a century after the founding. And Ho wrote, "Nothing in text or history suggests that the drafters of the 14th Amendment intended to draw distinctions between different categories of aliens. To the contrary, text and history confirm that the Citizenship Clause reaches all persons who are subject to U.S. jurisdiction and laws, regardless of race or alienage." And it seems to me we've also got a contradiction here, because in order to classify as illegal aliens, they must be held subject to the U.S. jurisdiction. Otherwise, how are they illegal? And if they're not subject to your jurisdiction, how can you deport them? I mean, you can't do that with, like, children of diplomats, because they're not subject to the jurisdiction. So, if you can do it with illegal aliens, that means the illegal aliens must be subject to the jurisdiction. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. Alright, and he also mentions the 1982 case Plyler v. Doe, where the Supreme Court unanimously rejected the distinction that Trump perceives. As Ho noted, all 9 justices agreed that the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection, which applies to any person within a state's jurisdiction, protects legal and illegal aliens alike. And finally, he mentions the South Texas College of Law professor Josh Blackman. People born in the U.S. are citizens regardless of the citizenship of their parents. An executive order by President Trump cannot erase the original meaning of the Constitution. Nope. And he's sworn to the Constitution. How is this gonna fly? I don't at all understand how he thinks this is gonna fly. How does this pass muster with the 14th Amendment? It doesn't. But I guess we'll see how it ends up shaking out. Either way, it's going to be entertaining. So thank you so very much for watching. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. And as always, go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. You can support there with a one-time donation with PayPal, Venmo, or cryptocurrency. Or go to Patreon or Subscribestar and become a regular subscriber. Get these videos early and ad-free. Join the live stream and the monthly AMA. And check out all the other benefits that are available there. Thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.